All right, welcome back to another episode of the Kitchen Table Podcast. I'm your host, Ken Baden, and we're here with James Heflin from Bearcat Enterprises, who actually drove all the way down from West Virginia, which I wasn't anticipating a live podcast today, which is great because I prefer the live podcast. But James, thank you for making the trip down here, man.
I appreciate you having me, man. Came down from Morgantown. Heard before you've spent a little bit of time there. During your time in Frostburg.
Yeah, man. Frostburg, which is funny because Morgantown's like, well, the city for Frostburg. Even though it's Virginia, West Virginia, and Maryland, like, there ain't much in Frostburg, Maryland.
There ain't much anywhere else in West Virginia. It was the city for everywhere. I grew up 90 minutes away, but like if you wanted to see like a good hospital, you had to go to Morgantown.
Really? So that's West Virginia. So pretty much where Morgantown was the city for all of West Virginia.
For that section of West Virginia, the capital's further south, so we kind of got our own little space there. We bring in a lot of people from all the way up to Pittsburgh and all the way over to Oakland.
That's funny because that's Oakland, Maryland.
Yeah.
That area, it's like the tri-state areas, like West Virginia, Maryland, and PA.
Yeah.
So, like, I would be in Frostburg, and I'd see West Virginia gear, Steelers gear, Eagles gear, and Redskins gear. And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? But it's because the Steelers are big up there. Obviously the Mountaineers, Redskins, and the Ravens. The Ravens, not Eagles, Ravens. But it was just like, I don't know.
I'm a prime example. I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I was a Washington Redskins fan. And I lived near neither of those cities.
It makes sense, man, because that's all there was up there, man. And truthfully, first of all, I loved, because I went to College Park first, and I hated College Park, man. So I went to University of Maryland. I loved the school. I wanted to get in that school so bad. I had a bunch of buddies that went there. I worked really hard to get in. Got in, went one semester. The girl I was dating at the time was at Frostburg. And so, we had dated all through high school. And I don't know, man. Back then, I probably had a ton of codependency issues and everything else, probably still do. But we did one semester apart, and I was like, this isn't for me, man.
Time to head out to the mountains.
Well, and too, I was commuting, so it didn't feel like I was getting the college experience, so to say. So instead, I went 3 hours, west and to the mountains, And I loved it because the school is like run by college kids.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if have you been to Frostburg?
I've spent a little bit of time there.
So
a couple weekends.
And it's a good time. It used to be, how old are you?
I'm 25.
Oh, you're a young cat, dude. See, you didn't get to see Frostburg in its prime. In its prime, it was just like this self-governing wild party school of I don't know, a bunch of young folks figured out shit, we can just go up to these mountains, dude, and they just let us do whatever we want. We just run the town while school's in session, and then when it's out, the locals look at you like a weirdo if you're still there. They're like, they side-eye you when you're still there over the summer. But
that's about how Morgantown is.
Which is weird, though, too, because it's why would you stay? But to your point, it's like they get it, they tolerate it because, that's probably the number one economy driver. But when school's out, go away. You know what I mean? They're like, all right, get lost, dude.
Need a break.
They don't want to see you. Yeah, they need a break. Which I get, man. There's kids, man. They're I remember seeing girls in bikinis on laying out on their roofs, and I'm like, yeah, this is the place for me, dude. You know what I mean? This is where I want to be. And it was a good time, man. I joined a fraternity. They didn't really have fraternity housing like they have at Maryland. They have frat row. They have fraternity row, and it's real. The fraternities are recognized as they are on campus or off campus fraternities in Frostburg, but housing was all rented houses. They didn't have fraternity owned or sanctioned fraternity housing. It was just this is a fraternity house.
This is a massive house. We'll just
right. We're gonna put letters in the window and hopefully they don't catch us. But I lived in a couple of those. It was a good time, man. I don't regret any of it. I did essentially just graduate and leave college with a raging drug habit, and so there's some things that I wish I maybe didn't have happen, but at the same token, they all made me the person that I am today. So I wouldn't take any of it back, but I do have an affinity for the mountains, man. I love the skiing up there, so that's another thing. Wisp. I was a big
over in Deep Creek.
Honestly, man, that's what I did more than anything. I didn't really do a whole lot of the nightlife in Morgantown or anything. I knew a girl that went there. I kind of had a crush on her, which is funny because she never knew that until like way later and always thought that I was an asshole. And then that's a long story. But anyhow, never went and saw her. Always talked about it. But I did go to WISP all the time. And so we skied a lot. And I loved skiing. And I don't know, are you anywhere near up there still?
I go around Deep Creek. I'm not really big into skiing.
Is there snow on the ground right where you just came from?
It snowed on me on the way here. So there's a little bit of snow on the ground, but I don't think there's any skiable powder right now.
How far are you from Deep Creek?
I'm right in Morgantown, so I'm about
20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes?
Probably about 40 minutes.
Dude, you're right in Morgantown.
Yep.
I envy you, brother. The mountains are beautiful. It's beautiful. It really is. It's so peaceful up there. The snow and you guys get it, that's like a regular thing every year for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. See, it's hit or miss for us, man. We did get a good snowstorm a couple of weeks ago. And honestly, I'm good with it on the weekend and get in and get out. Like yesterday, it snowed for like an hour and we had like one guy call out, but it was 48 and sunny by 2 o'clock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was gone. So I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Give me a day and then get out of here because I run a roofing company. And hell, you got the same thing, but I would imagine, and let's get into it, we just spent the first, excuse me, by the way, you got to understand, look, he brought up something that drew up that was a core memory unlock for me. And those are like some of the best days of my life and then like the beginning of the end. So it was like, man, that was awesome. And then right after that's when things just completely crashed and my whole life was ruined. But,
I'm glad I just took you on that emotional roller coaster.
Hey, dude, you have no idea what you just did, but it's all good, man. But I appreciate that where you're from is one of the places I still frequent when I do go skiing, which we have plenty of other options, but I just love Deep Creek. I love WISP. Deep Creek, usually on my birthday, which was last month, my wife gets us a little house in Deep Creek up, on the mountains, and we'll go up there for the weekend, and hopefully there's snow, and we just relax. The snow calms me down. Not much slows me down, but an active snow, I don't know what it is. It's so quiet and peaceful, dude. I don't know. I envy you, man. So tell me about what, first and foremost, you came over here because you're a member of the Ballers community, correct?
Yes.
So I want to shout that out. You're a member of the Blue Collar Ballers community, which is a free Facebook group. He's not a paid member of the group or anything like that, which matters not. I mean, our community is the community that is free. Everything else is just like, hey, you want to learn some stuff and everything. That's wonderful. We have a place for that. But the community, I think, is dope. I think it's really cool what's going on in there. It's growing quickly. It's just a cool group of people that, we're not asking anybody for money. We just ask that everybody go in there and contribute and give value. That's it.
No, I'm a big fan of the community because there's other Facebook communities that don't 100% recognize my whole service area. Mm-hmm. And, if I'm not roofing like the rest of you guys or if I'm not hanging steel, I don't count. But
right.
In the Blue Collar Ballers, we've had people come on the lives and contribute into the Facebook posts. They're in the landscaping field and all the way up to roofing and massive construction.
I do. That's my favorite part about it too, man, which is funny because, from a demographic standpoint and if it were all about we're only doing this for X, it would be easier to concentrate that demographic to one, especially for me. We're doing Blue Collar Ballers roofing edition, but that's a whole different that's a what would you call that?
Spin-off.
No, well, yeah, yes and no. Yes, it's a concentration on one group, so yes, but you do live events, and those live events, so it's not like the big, when we do one, trust and believe, what I think we're gonna do is one for everybody, but we definitely want to have representatives of as many of those groups as we possibly can. Could be you know what I mean? But that's what I love is there's so freaking many that it's so hard to get a rep from everything. Because to your point, I see who comes in. We're the ones usually I'll still go in and let people in because we've gotten way more choosy as the group's gotten bigger. It's all right, we're not just letting, if you don't answer the questions, I'm not letting you in. If I don't see that you have some kind of blue collar service, someone might sneak in, but then we see them post something I saw a guy post something the other day. Yeah, and I'm like, strike one, dude. Do it again. You know what I mean? Like, but we don't want that, you know. And if you don't have some direct blue collar, either work for a company, own a company, you're out. So, but I love that too, man. I love that it's so diverse. And speaking of diverse, I mean, talk about what you do. I mean, like, what is it that your company specializes in? When did you get started? Tell us the story of how you got into what you got into.
So I'm definitively diverse in every manner that I can imagine. We have 6 different companies flying underneath the same flag, but flying separate flags. I can get into that a little bit later. And I think I started just about like everyone else that bootstrapped their way. I was, 15, and I cut grass. And that's just like the most American dream story, kind of replaced the paper route. And I took that, and I was serious about it from the start.
They're cutting grass at 15. Okay.
Yep. I had employees before I left high school.
Wow. Hell yeah, man. Talk about entrepreneurial spirit. I love it.
No, so we would have different trucks, and we were parked out in the high school parking lot. And I got these cheap Vistaprint magnets hanging on the doors, and they were, beat up trucks. I mean, we're kids.
Right, you were 15.
Yeah.
The fact that you had any trucks.
15
good
push
for you, brother.
Up to 17. We were growing in that manner, and honestly, that was more of an ego thing. Looking back now, that was obviously ran horribly. I was 17 years old. But so we started out with just a landscaping company, and I took all that, and I grew up in a very rural part of West Virginia, down in Doddridge County, and
Shout out Doddridge.
Yeah, go Bulldogs. And like the town's population was 600 people, and that was the biggest town in the county. That's where everyone had to go to.
600 people. Okay.
600 people, median income well below the national poverty level.
Wow.
And
great place to start a business.
That was a great place to start a business. And I graduated high school. I went up to WVU in Morgantown, and I brought the business with me, which wasn't hard because it fit in a pickup bed.
Okay, so now that makes sense. So that's where you got off the W. You were in Morgantown grad.
Yep. Graduated WVU a few years ago with a bachelor's in landscape architecture.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. All right. So this guy's all right. Let me sit up straight a little bit, pay a little bit more attention. Got an educated young man.
Oh, yeah.
Sir. Let me see. All right.
So while I was there, I was trying to run a business back in Doddridge County. We had built a massive brand there, a lot of recognition. We were definitely one of the biggest of the whole 4 competitors in the area.
And this is still just landscaping?
Yep, still just landscaping. Coming to Morgantown, we're doing one-off installations and designs there and managing maintenance, consistent weekly lawn maintenance, property maintenance down in Doddridge County. And we ended up getting some massive contracts. The gated lake community is probably the epitome of like the upper echelon. We had that where there's many mansions outside of larger cities, and a massive estate that at my last count was 60 acres, mowed weekly. Weekly.
60 acres.
Weekly.
I wonder what that account was. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to do the math in my head, but it's all
you'd be wrong because I was not as smart as I am.
Oh, okay. All right. You were like, here's the price, and they were like, yes, we'll take that.
Oh yeah.
Let's lock this in for a 3-year contract.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Done.
And we ended up renting like a small satellite shop down there. It was essentially just a place to leave equipment there to not have to transport it 90 minutes one way, because that got obviously very time-consuming and expensive. But since that time, we have consolidated to just running out of our Morgantown location, and we got rid of our maintenance, our residential lawn maintenance division, because it was labor, heavy labor requirement and a very low profit margin. I essentially kept it as long as I did. It's a loss leader, like the rotisserie chickens at Sam's Club. Gets people in the door, because whoever's doing your lawn, that's the person you're going to ask first on who's doing if you're looking for a planting project or an exterior cleaning, anything along those lines that are higher ticket items. But everybody assumes that the lawn guy, they're like a handyman. and they'll do everything. Yeah, sure, I'll paint your bathroom, but that's not what we do.
Right.
We're specialized. And it ended up coming into a winter. Landscaping obviously is low in the winter. Got on YouTube. There's junk removal, and that was our next pivot into there. It was kind of a pivot of pure desperation in the winter. We had plywood sides on a little Lowe's or Home Depot trailer, and obviously we've expanded that significantly, but that was our start, was doing that for foreclosures, for estates and single item pickups, and I started to fly it under its own name because I didn't want people to take me as being a quote-unquote chuck in a truck, the kind of guy that'll, sure, I'll cut your grass, I'll haul your junk.
Paint your bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt like people don't take you seriously as that, just like no contractor wants to be called a handyman to his face.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yep. So in the residential world, we flew under the different names of Bearcat Lawn and Landscape, Reliable Removal for Junk Removal.
Bearcat, dude. I don't know why in my head I had Bear Claw for like 2 seconds. I'm like, that can't be right. Bear Claw. Unless he just really likes donuts, man. I don't know. Bear Claw, but Bearcat, that makes way more sense. I don't know why that just popped up. ADHD. Continue, sir.
Cool story behind that name. I was 9 when I picked it, and I haven't changed it since.
You knew you wanted to, hold on now. You were 9 when you picked your company's name?
Yep.
So you knew when you were 9 years old you just wanted to be a businessman. Oh, something.
I knew when I was 6 I wanted to be a businessman.
Did you know it was going to be landscaping, or you just didn't know what it was going to be?
I think very early on I knew it was going to be landscaping. I was probably the only child who flipped it from Nickelodeon to DIY and watched the landscaping shows where they'd first bring out the dingo and start planting trees and stuff. I'm like, that's what I wanted to do from the start.
That is badass, man. That's very interesting, man. 6 to 9, and you knew Bearcat at 9 years old. I mean, to your point, there's a joke that some of the roofers talk about. They're like, well, yeah, I've always wanted to be a roofer. And it's like, the joke is like, no. You know what I mean? No, you didn't. You know what I mean? Like, right. But, and I don't know if you know who Adam Bensman or the roof strategist is, but he's a big name in at least that industry. As could you be. And that's the value. We'll go into that in a second. I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but that is the value of pushing yourself on social media, building a brand, and saying, well, what do I do that for? Well, the more recognizable you are, as long as you're portraying yourself in a positive light, can only help, right? Like lend things to, like lend credence to your capabilities, make you legitimate, a recognized name, a recognized brand, customers, clients, clientele base increases. I mean, all of the above, right? As long as you brand you effectively, and you're a likable guy, you're obviously very smart. This story is like, dude, I knew I wanted to be in landscaping at the time I was 6 to 9. I'm probably the only person in the history of the world that wanted to do that. That's a great story, man. I'm a big proponent and fan of just like the whole sales system on the retail side, and one of it is creating a company story, because it really gives the person like insight into who they're potentially doing business with. And that's a powerful one, dude. I would really like, it's great when it's you, but it's even better when it's your reps and they're like, hey, here's our owner, and he's a WVU grad, especially locally, like WVU grad, local, knew he wanted to be, Bearcat. The name came from our owner, knew he wanted to do this when he was 9 years old, instead of watching Nickelodeon, he was watching DIY and flipped over to DIY networks at 6 to 9. And that's where, and so we take this serious, and that's how that love that he has been passed on to us, and the culture that we have here. No one's going to take care of you like we will. I mean, think about that, man. Sorry. Take it, run with it, record it, do it, don't. I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. That's just me. Like, as soon as you say that, I'm like, oh, I could turn that into. People are going to buy that, man. Some people are going to buy that, especially because you're a likable guy. I'm just saying, man, start selling you, but go ahead. Continue.
I hope they buy it. It's on the website like that.
It is?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, that's smart. Well, there you go. All right. So you're already pushing it. You're an educated man. I don't know. I forgot who I was talking to. College grad.
That's
right.
By the skin of my teeth.
Bro, hey, at least you didn't have to get passed through like, my last semester was like when the pain pill addiction had taken full, like, fledged addiction mode, and my professor's just like, okay, just get out. You know what I mean? Like, it's literally last semester that I was there. They're like, go. Which I had done well enough before then, but, you know, I could have not. Not that it really did anything for me graduating, because I didn't use the degree at all. But it got my foot in the door at the one sales organization that I learned the most from. I do believe they were hiring college grads, and that was it. And I was one of those. So
prove that you were able to show up 5 days a week for 4 years straight.
Yeah, I guess, you know, that's all they were looking for. And then, of course, selling. But, you know, now nobody cares about that, man. But, sorry. So you were saying, you know, 9 years old, you knew what you would. Actually, I deviated you from that. So you were talking about the natural progression of where you were going. And you were the junk removal, didn't want to be seen as a jack of all trades.
Yep. So our junk removal we labeled as reliable removal in West Virginia. And then we got into wanting to push towards exterior cleaning in the spring. It was just nothing but grinding through the internet, trying to figure out what I can do. Everything I picked was low barrier of entry, easily scalable, easily trainable. And that was kind of what I was aiming towards. To not go towards like massive hardscape landscape construction or roofing, because I can take a guy, and obviously easier said than done, but put him on a truck with me for a week, 2, 3, and then I have no hesitation putting him on a truck to go cut grass or remove junk. It's not the training that roofing requires years of experience to be good at it. Obviously, there's laborers and people come in every day with zero experience, but
I know exactly what you mean, right? Like the actual person running the job and like nailing the shingles and putting the underlayment on and making sure they do it right, being able to know that how to determine if it's done right. I get it. Lots of variables. What about power washing? We doing that?
Right now, we have dialed back our power washing just because of trying to dedicate more time towards the other two at the moment.
Well, we haven't even got to hear how you got to this one yet, actually. So you're training, you're getting guys, and I want you all to hear this. By the way, what he's breaking down, and all jokes aside, man, I keep joking about the educate, but clearly he is educated. Clearly, this is someone who's wanted to do this since he was freaking 9 years old, 6 to 9 years old. Hear his thought process. I mean, he's literally verbalizing. Is that a word? Yeah, he's articulating very clearly his thought process on, okay, what do I need to get into something quickly? Well, I need, it needs to be a minimal expense, very little capital required, very low barrier of entry, easily trainable, easily scalable. Like, hear him when he's saying this, because it's a smart thought process on like, okay, what else can I add and not jump into it's low risk, high reward. I mean, I hope you guys are digesting that, because this is a lot of, he's putting you on game for free. The thought process of an entrepreneur or somebody with a good business mind, and how you should be kind of running through the weighing pros and cons before jumping into something. But please continue.
But like I said, we were naming all of those services differently. They all had separate LLCs, separate accounting, separate logos, separate everything.
It's a pain.
It is a lot to juggle, but on the reward end, people are calling and they know they're getting a professional landscape company, a professional junk company, and they're buying into that because it's marketed completely separate. And that works really good in the residential field, because once I get into you, you're my client, then you start asking me, like, hey, I know you are just a junk removal company, but do you know anybody who installs mulch and trims shrubs? Like, you're not going to believe this. And then just put on a different hat.
Right.
But now
which is still better to absorb, but go ahead.
But now we're trying to angle ourselves more in B2B.
Okay.
Taking care of
less residential.
Yeah. Less residential, because residential, it's just having to, our average ticket price in residential is right between $1,000 and $1,500. But I have to deal with a separate person for that, a separate set of their expectations, and a whole separate address. And I'm there with my crew for roughly 3 to 6 hours. But if we go up to a plaza of office rental suites, or if we go to a strip mall kind of complex, or hotels and manufacturing places, we're able to pull up, and that truck does not move, because every time the key turns, it costs you money. All that space in between, and you were set on that site for 8 to 12 hours, and sometimes more than one day a week. And we market ourselves as a one-call magic key, to where they don't want to have to deal with 15 different contractors either, whoever's the property manager. They want to make one call to me. When dumpsters are overflown, it's the same call, landscape maintenance, exterior cleaning. And right now we're trying to work our way in towards, and obviously it's further down the line, we need more labor to get that going, but interior janitorial as well.
I was gonna say, man, have you considered that?
Yep, it's on the list of things to cross off, hopefully within this year. That's the goal.
I'm really interested in talking to you more about that when you do. And I have a couple people I can connect you to just to give you some, but I've seen the folks doing it, and you're probably like myself, man, right? Like you see somebody doing something and then like you kind of weigh them as a, how can I say this politely, but like you're like, well, if you can do it, I can definitely do it. You know what I mean? Like, I love you to death, but I don't know. And look, I lost a whole bunch of brain cells, but I still have enough in there to be like, you know, just a slightly average, above average. And I say that in jest. You know, I of course I believe in myself just like you do. But like I said, there's a few folks you've met and you're like, pal, if you can do this, I can definitely do it. And I say that about a few people I know do that, but I love them to death. And I also feel like just hiring some of them myself, negotiating some price point, I can't imagine what they're really paying those folks. I mean, so I feel like it's good margin for relatively like, anyhow, we'll talk more about it. Like, what are you doing? You stocking cleaning supplies. Some of the times we pay for some of the stuff. Like, we have it here. They're just using ours. Like, at that point, it's like, dude, it's almost just labor, you know?
Right. Like, I broke down a cleaning crew, and my guys, I've looked on Indeed and seen my competitors' ads for landscape crew leads, landscape laborers. My guys are near the higher end of what other people are offering.
Being paid.
And then getting into, like, commercial cleaning, I've done the math. Like, you break it down, you got a minivan, you got, you know, some equipment that's available at your local big box hardware store, and you're in the game for less than $2,000-3,000.
Yeah, that would make total sense. And then you
again,
just need to
low barrier of entry.
Low barrier of entry, low risk, and you get. And what I also like about the type of service you do is, I'm assuming it's contract based, like year to year, month to month. Like, how does that work?
So we market it two different ways. Like, I'll just focus on the landscaping portion of it. We are usually an annual recurring service provider for a lot of the residential people. And then for commercial and some higher-end residential, we put them on a quarterly contract of us coming in and essentially just overseeing anything that comes up, because no one who works at a commercial location, they don't know who to call if a bush is dying. They don't know who above them would be in charge of that kind of thing. We would go over there, and we would have a predetermined allowable expense to keep everything to between a B+, A+ grade of the appearance of the exterior of the building. And obviously, you know, on-call stuff, such as tractor trailer swung the turn too sharp and went over the median.
Yeah, took out a nasty big chunk of our plants and stuff.
Yeah. And then we can mobilize out there.
Do sod and all that?
Sod isn't really a huge thing out there.
I guess I'm just thinking of that scenario,
Yeah.
like where you might need to fix some grass. I don't know.
No, it's just that would just be like topsoil, you know, leveling and seeding, and it will come back in its time.
What about? And I have to ask you this: like when you were saying, "Oh man, you know, winter, we got to figure out some things." I already know you thought about this because of where you live. But like, is snow removal an option, or it's just so freaking crazy, like saturated? It's like, yeah, dude, good luck. There's like 50 people in my neighbors.
It's a viable option, but for me at this current time, all of my guys that have came to work for me have been younger dudes who are completely content with understanding this is a seasonal business and not feeling the need to stay on 12 months a year. They know it. They see it coming because James doesn't do snow. No part of me wants to wake up at 3 a.m. in the freezing cold and go slam my truck into a curb for hopefully $45 a driveway in that kind of market area. But
you're talking driveways and stuff, yeah.
Where
the money, I think,
is commercial.
Yeah. Commercial contracts.
Once we get heavier into commercial and we can justify keeping machinery and materials on site and being able to either have employees drive their own vehicle straight to the site or just send out a truck with no equipment, but they're on a contract basis. Whether it snows or not, I'm still getting a check. Because people in the residential, it's a pay per push. You come out when it snows, and we pay you our agreed upon
you're
price.
Right. I would never do that in residential. After saying that, no. But the ones I know that do commercial, I guess I only know ones that do commercial, to be honest with you. And we don't get it much out here, but they like clamor over that. Like, yes, I'm gonna get snowing tonight because they got the county contract or whatever, you know. And I'm like, all right, they're paying. They gotta be paying. You know how that goes, dude. So you get yourself a county contract or a school or two, or you get hooked up with like, you know the game, dude. You get hooked up with a couple of the local business spots, and I'm assuming like 3 or 4 property management companies are more prevalent than others, and like you said, like, hey, give me a call if it snows, man, and we'll come out and we'll do it. And like you said, the rate's predetermined, everything's predetermined, everything's good. But I was curious, given that you're in the mountains.
That's further down the line once we get to that point, but I am fighting it off as long as I can. Once I start losing significant contracts to us not being able to provide snow as well, or once I start...
Does it snow enough up there?
It's honestly touch and go. We have good winters and bad winters. Like, right now, snow guys all across the country are just, like, losing money hand over fist.
And it's not really snowed much.
They've got $25,000 worth of equipment bolted to an $80,000 truck, and it's sitting in the driveway.
My wife's like, it's going to, this year? I'm like, okay, baby. We did get one that, like, here shuts us down for 2 weeks, but, like, it was just really cold that week, too, so, like, it just didn't go anywhere. But it's disappointing, man, because when I hear where you're at, I'm like, yeah, dude, snow, man, all the time.
No, not all the time. Very thankful for that.
He's like, yeah, hell no, I don't want that. What are you talking about? Don't put that on me, man. I love the snow, dude. But to your point, I like to, like, come down here and not be in the snow. I don't want it to affect my business, which for you, it negatively affects your business. My business. Right, so I agree. Sorry, I don't want to put that on you. Until you're into snow, in which case I wish you plenty of snow. So where you at now? Where is Bearcat at now, and where do you see Bearcat in the very near future? We've already talked about some of it, but how old are you?
25.
You're 25 years old. You graduated school, I'm assuming, a couple years ago?
3.
22, 23.
3 years ago this April.
3 years ago. Your degree is literally in something completely and totally relevant to what you do. I mean, you're poised for, I'd be really, if you're comfortable, I'd love to hear what your your annual, and we don't have to talk revenue if you're not comfortable, but like I can tell you for us, our goal is, hey, look, we want to reach 50 million gross by 2026, December 31st, 2026, 50 million gross, 20% net, 10 million EBITDA. We hope to attract private equity at that rate, the coveted 10x, which would be 100 million. That's the goal. So we can talk about that candidly because that's the goal, right? And so I don't know if that's something you're comfortable, but I suppose you could relate that to, like, hey, we're looking at a 4x next year. These are the goals. Just to give our listeners, like, provide some value. Don't have to give us the numbers in terms of, like, but projections, goals. Where are you going? What are you doing? What's the future for Bearcat?
So right now, to kind of wrap up my how I got here story.
Oh, sorry.
Because it plays really
ADHD
into this.
Is a hell of a thing, man. It's sorry, dude. ADHD has me in 5 different locations currently right now. All of your story, I'm thinking snow, and I'm skiing on one lobe of my brain, and then the other one, I'm like still stuck on snow removal. And then, I'm somewhere watching you in the back creepily watch, DIY lawn shows as a 9-year-old. Still like 5 stories that you just told me going on in my head at one point. So please wrap up, and then we'll get into where you're going and where the future has for you.
Full transparency, I have a 40-hour-a-week salaried job while I still manage this. I'm out of the field. Yes.
And you've been doing this since 15. At 9, you knew you wanted to do it. You still have a 40-hour week.
Yep. So a couple years ago.
How the hell did you come down here today? Did you take off?
Oh, 100%.
That's dedication, man.
That's what PTO's for.
Oh, yeah. Well, so you got a good job. You got a government job. Or no?
I work for a large civil engineering company in the Mid-Atlantic.
You're an engineer?
I'm a landscape architect. They hire us.
I could tell, though. His personality type. He reminds me of.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, Kevin.
And he's an engineer. He's one of my best friends. He's our fractional CFO. You have a very similar personality type, so that's why I was like, you said civil engineering, but I would guess the path is similar, right? So
right. Oh, 100%. It's extremely similar. I work hand in hand with them 40 hours a week.
And you probably are paid well.
I do okay.
So I get it. He's doing the same thing. Actually, it's kind of funny. He literally still has a 40-hour-a-week government contractor position, but he's over that, and he's ready for us to, we're just like, dude, we have got to get ourselves to a point. We still have a couple more hires to make to like complete. We have to, because where we are at scaling into not just one new market, but 2, as a satellite or not, still. Here is the foundational home base piece that, we then do most of our production and operations here to help the other offices that are doing sales and, quality assurance. That's it, right? Like they're selling and we'll have a PM on the job, but we do all the rest back in here. Well, we have to be able to facilitate 35 million here. So we need to get a couple more hires in because, that's a 4X. 5X over last year. Point being, Kevin's not going to be cheap. So we're like, well, we'll see where we're at by the end of the year, man. Because for us to really get him to walk away, same reason you're not. PTO, I'm assuming you got some kind of comp package.
Oh, no, that is not the reason I'm not walking away.
Okay. Please do tell.
So a couple years ago, my father passed away. And he was never a huge fan of the whole entrepreneur thing. He'd do anything for me, but he definitely wasn't like, go out and do that, go be your own boss. He wasn't all for that. So
my dad was the same way.
I made some major life changes really quick. Within 2 to 3 weeks of him passing away, I signed on with this company and shrunk my company drastically, but I refused to get rid of it. They asked, and I'm like, I'm not getting rid of my brand. I have guys working out there right now that are trained. They can handle their own self. It's not like I'm going to be leaving work every day to go, cut grass at like 2 in the afternoon. I think that's what they were concerned about. But I'm only working there because that's what my father would have wanted at the time, and I don't know what kind of feeling I thought I was going to get from that, but It ain't.
You don't have it.
It ain't feeling it.
Yeah. The feeling ain't feeling. And not to mention, man, and I don't mean to be like, but my dad's the same way. And he has since just recently retired, and he was in here yesterday. But he ended up coming to work for me a couple years in. It's just 2 companies, and finally him seeing like, okay, like they just don't. You're a borderline engineer. So if I would love to see your DISC assessment. My guess is, you're a risk taker enough to be an entrepreneur, but you got this 40-hour-a-week work. I would love to see your DISC assessment. But anyhow, that's another story. But my point is guys like our fathers, first of all, I believe it's a certain era, but still, there was businessmen in their era. There's people who see that way. That's what the DISC assessment really talks about. There's other things, Myers-Briggs, DISC. There's other personality type assessments that we can do, but bottom line is it just further proves that like there's some people that think that way and some people that don't. There's some people that take risks like that. There's some people that don't. There's NLP goes into the values levels of consciousness, and it's an entire like values level, like where you're at, and a lot of it ties into money and work, and like I value security over everything else, right? Like, so I'm not going to be an entrepreneur, but I do need security, I need recognition, I need. Point being, you thinking a different way just means that like that's just the way your mind works, quite literally. Like, but recognizing that they think differently is also important, right? Because my dad and I were always like at odds, right? Like, you don't speak my language, I don't speak yours. You don't support me. It's not that. He just worried. You know what I mean? Right. Like, to him, it was like, you're a freaking, his father's the same way, Jamaican, like traditional, you need to go be a police officer. Like, that's just, it's not because they're jerks or anything like that. It's like, that's stable, that's safe. And they need safe, they need stable. They care about their children, they want, but safe and entrepreneur don't mix, right? Like, entrepreneurism is inherently, you got to have that like lack of fear and the ability to move quick and the ability to jump and just kind of see what happens. And you clearly have that.
I live off of the fear and the drive, and like if I don't make it work, then I gotta tell people that I didn't make it work. Essentially, like I don't want to crumple down from what I've built up. I had an offer to sell out I think it was last year. Had an offer to sell out for 1.5 times or 225% of the value of the assets. So someone told me, essentially on paper, that the work that I put in and the brand that I had built was worth right in the ballpark of $250,000 just to sell out. And that's without any recurring contracts. Everything is, annual, and no one is on a 5-year contract. Everyone is on a 1 or a 2. But, that was a little bit of an off tangent there. But
we want to get that number up towards like, we want to get your EBITDA up to like 1, 2. You know what I mean? And then you're like, cool. Give me an 8X on that $2 million. Serious. It's a game, brother. We're going to get you there.
I understand. One of these days, I'm going to get there.
I'm going to get you there.
Especially after I make my exit.
I was getting ready to say, well, you got 2 exits to make now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, one, we got to get you back. Safe ain't. Safe, it's just ironic, man. Because, like, safe, especially these days, is, like, just enough to keep you fucking broke. You know what I mean? Or
J-O-B,
like
just over broke,
dude. Right? Yes. Right? Yeah. JOB, and that's literally that's my favorite acronym. JOB. You know what that stands for, right? Just over broke, and it's literally the case. Like, unless you're like a government official or politician that somehow makes $250,000, which is a damn good living. You're already in the 1%, but then you turn into being worth like millions. After you got elected to office. I don't know how they all do it, but outside of that, and there's certain jobs, doctors, lawyers, but like, man, and even then the private practice trounces that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I would love to see you get back in full time. But you put too much. Since you were a kid, I promise you this much, your dad just wanted safety and security. That's it. He just wanted to know you were safe. That's it, right? He doesn't speak that language.
The more I think about it, near the end, he was on board with, man, you've done something. I had a video, and it lost on the phone. It was like the first time I recognized that he was all for this. I had one of my guys working for me. We had just done a massive property cleanup, down trees and everything. I had to have my dad come out and drive a truck for me. And he stops his truck right in front of the camera and says, "Another Bearcat job finished." But the video's gone now. So I think he did just want safety for me. He was a government employee. But I do think he was, starting to recognize that this is a viable lifestyle and one that is going to completely make my life satisfactory to me. Because
that's all that matters.
Oh, yeah.
We need to have an update. This is unacceptable. We need a conclusion here. What's the timeline?
The timeline we're looking at right in the ballpark of 10 months from now.
I know that puts you in a pickle, obviously, but 10 months from now before you're able to do that.
10 months from now and I'm able to do it tomorrow. Like, I'll figure it out. The security that a job offers is only that only one person has to tell me to kick rocks before I have no cash flow coming in. Versus being an entrepreneur, and especially in the service-based business, there has to be hundreds of people tell me to kick rocks before I'm broke. Like that, to me, a job is like the opposite of security. I got to make one person mad, and I'm getting evicted within 3 months.
It's a very good way to think about that. 10 months. Possibly before?
Possibly before. But I'm not in a hurry within this year to leave, because right now I have everything built out since I've left to be sufficient without me being
I get it.
there 9 to 5.
I get it. It's still, you've done your job, you've done your work to where it's autonomous, and it's still, but like, we want to grow, build, scale, scale this thing, man.
Like, I'm still probably hustling an extra 30 to 40 hours a week. I couldn't tell you the last time there was just a straight day off that wasn't maybe Christmas. And it's just trying to get things in place, because right now I'm trying to operate a lot of what I do as essentially just being a GC, acting in that manner and subbing out my constituents that are obviously well qualified for the exact task that they're doing, and I am able to make a pretty decent business out of just that avenue right there. And it is getting me to the point where I am ready to leave. I'm also getting married this year, so that's another.
Oh yeah, brother!
Another hang up in
Congratulations,
it.
man.
Thank you.
What's the wife think about all that? She supports it, obviously, or you wouldn't be.
Oh yeah, she was here when I was full time, and she's been here through it all, man. And she's 100% on board with.
We got to get Bearcat popping.
The affectionately called Bearcat Empire.
There you go. Oh yeah, we got to get the Bearcat Empire has got to take over WVU, and then it's covered into Maryland and PA. Period. I want to see updates on this. So I'm going to have you back on in 10 months, and it's going to be very embarrassing if you come back on and like, well, I didn't jump yet, but I'm really thinking about it. And in the meantime, man, I'd actually love to work with you a little bit. Obviously, my time is very limited, and I say that like I'm not asking you for any money or anything. I'd love to help you any way I can, because I think it'd be a damn shame for you not to push, not too much, but I've had to do the opposite. You know, I've got 3 companies myself, and I know, and so I admire what you've done, because I know just the semantics, you know, like the holding company, the management company, the LLCs, and the management company to run. It's just the books and all that, doing it the right way. But for me in this year, like, I've had to say, okay, the consulting company, even last year, backseated, you know, Baden Consulting took on 1 client. It was a solar company that now, however, we know, okay, cool. Anybody in solar, which is doing really poorly right now, wants to learn insurance restoration, we can tell you effectively that we can get you up and running in 90 days. And we've got white labelable material for you to make that happen. We're doing some courses now. Most of that's for my internal PCR roofing, the company itself. But that's the focus. And I say that because I'm kind of like in the opposite end of that pendulum, where I'm like, all right, I got these 3 companies here, but this is the baby. You know what I mean? And like, I've, just like you, been pushing and pushing and pushing now. Although I've gone through different companies, partnership breakups, blah, 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 blah. But like, this is the thing where it's like, this is real, you know? And to me, as an entrepreneur, our duty is multifaceted, but ideally, if you truly are that entrepreneur that you clearly are, build, scale, sell. And I say sell in that you should build, scale, and build to sell. If nothing else, you don't have to sell, but you're able to sell. Build a company worth selling. So worst case, you built a company worth selling that's clearly making money. Like, and it's there if you ever run into an opportunity, it's good enough. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
that was another thing that led me to managing these all as separate brands, because the only name that's never leaving James Heflin IV is Bearcat. Any of these other brands up for sale, once they get to a point where someone is going to bring me an offer, that is a reasonable opportunity for me to consider it. But for me, my goal is to build something that is 100% sellable, whether I do it or it's after I'm gone, and just be able to leave a good enough mark in my market, my neighborhood, my community, to where people understand who we are and what we do, and more importantly, what we're worth.
I love it, man. That's awesome. That's a really great place. So lastly, where can people find you? Where's the best place to find information about you, James the Fourth, and Bearcat?
So you can find me. I have a pretty decent following on TikTok at BC Entrepreneur. And you can find me on Instagram at HeflinIV. And on Facebook, I'm just James Heflin IV. You'll see my beautiful face wearing a suit and tie in somebody else's wedding. Awesome,
man. And all the Bearcat stuff is all just associated with you.
It's easily findable. If you find me on any of the social media, that's pretty well all I post about. My whole life is
Bearcat.
Part of the Bearcat.
You got to get Bearcat number one, dude. You got a good TikTok? We don't really do much. We gotta get TikTok.
No, you don't. I checked.
No, I know. We're supposed to be posting on there. I know we do, but we ain't doing crap. I know, but his point is valid. I just got one like 2 months ago. We stopped. We didn't really use it. I'm like, are we posting on TikTok? Like, no. I'm like, cool. Can we start doing that? Because, I'm paying you guys to post on social media. Just saying. No big deal. It's all good. I've only been doing the whole social media. In all fairness, I'm not bragging on them. Like, not this past October, the October before. So like a year and a couple months. Before that, my Facebook was private. My Instagram I deleted sort of on accident. I wanted to change my password or something. I couldn't figure it out. I don't know. I got all crazy about the COVID stuff, and I was like, I'm like, I can't be on here. This is like pissing me off too much. Delete. And then I got to get back in, and it's like, oh, sorry, it's been too long, like 30 days or something. So I lost my Insta. Not that I had like millions of followers, but So anyhow, and then TikTok, I just, but now, man, my biggest thing with social was more like, hey, this is a brand that I'm building, which is myself, but, which is why I take the time, like, hey, at lunch, I'm going to, I try not to let it bleed into my day-to-day, which is why I do like noon, 5, 6, whatever I can possibly. We got the mayor coming on next week of Annapolis. Like, we've got a lot of we've had some real cool local businesses come on, and, it's networking, man. This is a valuable asset. You and I getting a chance to meet and sit down and promote your brand, but now I know somebody in the community that you're in the area that you're in, and you never know I'll be of value to you. You know what I mean? But hopefully we can be of value to you, James, because truly, people need to know who James the Fourth is. And I want to say Hepburn?
Heflin, man.
Heflin. I thought you said Hepburn the Fourth.
No, James Heflin.
James Hepburn the Fourth. I'm just kidding. Heflin. James Heflin the Fourth. James. Let him say it, dude. James Heflin the Fourth. I say this seriously because, in all seriousness, I want to make sure he gets all the recognitions. I don't know what's Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, I know there's a famous Hepburn somewhere. Why was that in my head? James Heflin the Fourth. Bearcat coming at you. You need to freaking find yourself some Bearcat stuff. Don't get my name wrong again, Ken. It is Heflin, not Hepburn. James, appreciate you coming on, dude. Having a good time with us. Driving all the way from West Virginia, man.
It was 100% worth it.
I hope so, man. I hope we have. Honestly, this is a great episode. I think people are going to love it. They're going to love you, more importantly. You're hard not to like, man. And I hope that this blows up for you, man. And any last words before we jump?
I was excited to come here. I told Roger I woke up 3 hours early this morning, like accidentally.
Oh,
swung past the shop on my way in. I got here an hour early.
Yeah,
but
it's such a. Go ahead.
If you guys are trying to start your own thing and you're still in a 40-hour week, or you're in high school or you're in college, because I know there's some young guys in the blue collar ballers community.
And we'll make sure we put this in there, so listen up.
I was talking with a friend who's a fellow entrepreneur. He's quite a bit older than me, and I was telling him that what we've been going on this winter was a complete reconstruction of the brand and our complete management and our staff responsibilities chart. We were talking on how much time I'm putting into it, and he said, man, you got to take some time for yourself. And while that is true, you do need to take some time, and you can either bask in what you've created or you can completely get away from it. I told him that this is all going to pay off in the end, and if it doesn't, I'm going to die doing it, and I'm completely okay with that. So if people are telling you to chill out, take it with a grain of salt. You do need to refresh yourself. You got to get away. That's why you see everyone who is doing what you're doing at a level that you're trying to get to on vacation and away. You know, the guys that are posting with the fake rented watches and the Lambos, don't buy into that too much.
Yes, but do not buy into that too much. Because to his point, by the way, I have real mentors here that nobody really knows. Some do, some don't. We just posted an episode of walking around. Adam Champagne's the CEO of Home Fix and like 6 other companies here locally. You know, Tope is his mentor, and Tope's the owner of majority of all of this, and now Adam's an owner, and it's just, guy's probably worth, collectively, those companies are hundreds of millions. I don't know what Adam's portion is, that doesn't matter. He's just, like, he's a very successful individual. Him, John from MLM, like, Adam is like a robot. Like, sure, he'll go on a family vacation here and there, and he does his dad duties, but, like, these guys work their asses off to get where they're at. Make no mistake about it, right? So, like, I love what you're saying, man. Yes. If you only see vacations and stuff, they either work their asses off already to get there, or they're probably full of shit. I don't know. Just my 2 cents. Mine, personally. Because I can tell you, me personally, for the first 4 years, I didn't take a fucking day off. And I was nothing. And I don't mean to say that, like, I meant, like, I wasn't even an entrepreneur. I mean, maybe for 2 of those years, but the first 2 years, I was rebuilding my life. I don't know how much of my story you know, but, like, I had nothing. And so I was just, like, trying to just catch up at all and working as a handyman or working back in sales. But, like, I didn't take any days off. That's not necessary, but don't let somebody – I think that the people who often say that stuff, their intentions are good. But then again, like, I think it's just different mindsets, man. Like, they don't understand it.
Obvious answer. You never took a day off. Where you're at now, was it worth it?
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
100%. And I still do that. That's really the point. If you ask anybody in the office,
Force him last week.
I said something on us. I said, hey, look, this Sunday, I'm not doing anything, just prepping everybody and prefacing, like, look, you know, I'm not going to be doing anything for work this Sunday. You know what I mean? I feel like that speaks for most, like, most people assume I'm going to be doing something somehow related to one of the companies or something for work. And even then, they're like, all right, dude, right, that's it. You know what I mean? But I love it, man. It's because I enjoy it. I love the pursuit. And to your point, where we're going and the lifestyle we're pursuing, like, of course I want to do all those things. I went on my first honeymoon, I hope my first and last honeymoon, but my first chance of leaving the country and going anywhere other than, like, locally. And we went to Greece, but there's something on my face that I can see that's, like, driving me nuts. A piece of dirt, I don't know. But light? It feels like there's, like, something, like, right here, and I'm like, but anyhow, we went to Greece. It was beautiful. God, what was it? Not Sicily. I should know. It's pretty embarrassing. It's one of the islands in Greece. But honestly, I don't really know much about it, even having gone. I was just like, this is dope. My wife did all that, so I was like,
tell
wonderful.
You a single island in Greece.
Yeah, it was amazing, dude. It was amazing. And anyhow, I want to do that more. Of course I do. But the way I get to do that more is by securing and positioning. I don't want to just be able to afford to do that once in a while. I want to be able to, the way my brain works, I want to be able to take a private jet and bring my dogs. Like, I literally said that when we were out there, and I was like, man, you know, this is awesome. I just wish we had our dogs. You say that's weird. I don't care, right? Like, call it my kids, my dogs, the people that I care about and value. I want to be able to bring everybody. Or I was like, we should do a company trip here. So you have any idea how much that would be? I don't want to care, right? Like, I don't want to have to care about that. I want to be able to bring the people. So that's what I think. And like, that's where I think getting to that point to where it's like, I can go when and if I want, whenever I want. And I want to just be able to afford to be able to go once, right? And I want my family and my people to be able to come with me. That's what I'm working for.
But I mean, that's freedom. I'll wrap it up right there. That's freedom. We're working towards.
That is freedom.
The freedom to do what you want when you want.
It's funny, Sutton says that all the time, a guy that works with me. He was like, I'm not a big, like, money, but I am a big freedom guy. And he's like, factually, in this country and in this world today, got to have money to have the freedom you want.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's a fact, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Bearcat, check it out. The name's not going anywhere, and he is Mr. Bearcat himself. We're going to make sure it pops and it comes back. He's got 10 months to do it because we're going to call him back on, so... And he's in the blue-collar baller community, so we're just going to stay on him.
He's going to call me out, like right there. He's going to at me. Directly.
All day, every day. All day, every day. We're going to actively be posting just to make sure that Bearcat makes it
8:15 every morning, Ken's going to be on there asking, hey, did you quit yet?
That's right. I might even do a live next week and just call you on, and just see. Every week we'll just do a live to see what the status is on whether or not he's still working or not.
I watch a lot of those lives from my office.
Yeah? Yeah. That's why. We were thinking, we're like, we need to change the times on these, man. Like, nobody ever comes. I'm like, well, it's 3 o'clock Eastern, which means everywhere else is behind us. So, like, it's just the middle of the day, right? Yeah. Like, in the middle of the day on a Friday, like, dude, I can't jump on. I'm working. I'm like, all right, we need to change the times on these. I figured, like, most people doing what we do that's blue collar, like, they're out working. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody's sitting in an office. Like,
all the guys that get called on, I've seen them that they're sitting in a truck.
They're in their trucks. Mm-hmm. So we were like, all right, we need to. I thought 3 o'clock would be a good time because it's like, for us, it's a good time, but not for anybody else. So we'll push it back. But anyhow, James, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, man.
Thank you,
Truly
Ken.
is.
I'm more than happy to be here and bring any value I can to anybody.
I think you bring a ton of value. I really do. Seriously, I think you brought a ton of value. I think people are going to love this episode. I'm looking forward to seeing the response from it, man. And I look forward to having you back. We're going to have you back. You're close enough for you to come out here, and now you've been screwed up. We're going to have you back. I look forward to it. We'll catch you on the next one, man.